everyone, we're here to discuss to you one of the ethical principles, the utilitarianism, which was theorized by Jeremy Bentham and Stuart Mill.
And to know more about these principles,
Just keep on watching.
Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is an ethical theory that determines right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. It is a form of consequentialism. Utilitarianism holds that the most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number.
Modern utilitarianism was founded in the 18th century by British philosophers Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, but the theory has philosophical ancestors in ancient Greek thinkers such as Epicurus. All of these guys agreed that actions should be measured in terms of the happiness or pleasure that they produce. When Bentham and Mill first proposed their moral theory, it was in a form now known as act utilitarianism, sometimes called classical utilitarianism. And it says that in any given situation, you should choose the action that produces the greatest good for the greatest number, period. But sometimes the act that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number can seem just wrong. For instance, suppose a surgeon has 5 patients all waiting for transplants. One needs a heart, another a lung, 2 are waiting for kidneys, and the last needs a liver. The doctor is pretty sure that these patients will all die before their names come up on the transplant list, and he just so happens to have a neighbor who has no family, total recluse, not even a very nice guy. The doctor knows that no one would miss the guy if he were to disappear, and by some miracle, the neighbor is a match for all 5 of the transplant patients. So it seems like, even though this would be a bad day for the neighbor, an act utilitarian should kill the neighbor and give his organs to the 5 patients. It's the greatest good for the greatest number. Yes, 1 innocent person dies, but 5 innocent people are saved. This might seem harsh, but remember that pain is pain regardless of who's experiencing it. So the death of the neighbor would be no worse than the death of any of those patients dying on the transplant list. In fact, it's 5 times less bad than all 5 of their deaths. So thought experiments like this one led some utilitarians to come up with another framework for their theory. This one is called rule utilitarianism. This version of the theory says that we ought to live by rules that, in general, are likely to lead to the greatest good for the greatest number. So yes, there are going to be situations where killing an innocent person will lead to the greatest good for the greatest number. But rule utilitarians want us to think long-term and on a larger scale. And overall, a whole society where innocent people are taken off the streets to be harvested for their organs is gonna have a lot less utility than one where you don't have to live in constant fear of that happening to you. So rule utilitarianism allows us to refrain from acts that might maximize utility in the short run, and instead follow rules that will maximize utility for the majority of the time.
Let's say you're on a boat and you see 2 people drowning in one area of the sea and 1 person drowning in another. You don't have time to reach both places. The utilitarian principle would say you should rescue the 2 people over the 1. Let's suppose we create a rule. You should never lie. The majority have decided this is a rule as they feel people should always be honest. Let's say one day an innocent person runs into your house. A few minutes later you get a knock at the door and there's a psycho standing there. He wants to kill the innocent person and asks if they're in your house. If rule utilitarians have said you can never lie, you then have to say yes to the psycho and let him kill the innocent person.
So dun sa pinakita mo, it's easy to say na isa-sacrifice yung life ng isa para sa nakararami kung hindi malapit sa'yo. Pero yun nga malapit sa'yo yung tao. So in that case, mahirap sabihin na dapat isacrifice mo yung isa kahit na malapit sa'yo kasi marami nang maliligtas eh. Kasi para sa akin, that's one of the issue of utilitarianism. Yung when it comes to sentimentality, kapag malapit na sa'yo yung taong mawawala, syempre maiiba ka, magiging bias ka. But since we're talking about greater good, syempre kahit sabihin mo malapit sa'yo yun, you still need to sacrifice that life of one person. Kasi nga, pinagmamalaki natin dito is greater good. Hindi naman yung pagiging subjective natin sa feelings natin as a person.
Para sa akin, agree naman ako na i-sacrifice yung isa ko sa mga loved ones para sa kabubuti ng lahat. Bakit? Kasi it's about sacrificing one for the sake of others. Kahit na mahal ko yun, kahit na sobrang malapit siya sa akin, kaya ko siya i-sacrifice kasi malaki naman yung magiging kapalit nun. Malaki kasi maraming buhay yung malasagip. Kaya para sa akin, agree naman. And yung sacrifice na yun, sana hindi mawala, hindi makalimutan. And agree ako dun sa quote na one life for sacrifice and hope for future for others.
Kasi trabaho ko yun eh. Trabaho ko yung pag-angat ng lever, saka yung pag-angat lever. So hindi naman tama na intindihin ko yung self-interest ko kaysa dun sa kapakal lang nakararami. Kasi the mere fact na trabaho ko yun, dapat alam ko kung ano yung priority ko. Kahit na masacrifice ko lang kasi yun yung tama. Kasi kung hindi ko yung ginawa, pumatay ako ng maraming tao, nagkasala ako sa batas, nagkasala din ako sa Diyos. Naligtas ko man yung anak.
Yung Diyos na rin yung bahalang magbigay sa atin ng mga biyaya kapalit ng ginawa mong sakripisyo na hindi mo iniligtas yung anak mo para sa ikaliligtas ng nakararami. Yun lang.
For me, para sa akin hindi. For me, no. I wouldn't sacrifice my child.
Bakit?
Kasi, syempre anak ko yun, di ba? Kung yun na lang meron ka, bakit mo pa siya isa-sacrifice para sa karamihan? Lalo na pag karamihan naman, meron din naman silang isa-sacrifice. Ay, meron din silang hindi isa-sacrifice para sa iyo. So, ba't mo isa-sacrifice yung para sa iyo na hindi naman kaya din isa-sacrifice para sa iyo?
For our conclusion, in utilitarianism, we can say that the action is right for as long as it produces greatest good for the greatest number of people. We've shown different scenarios about rule and act utilitarianism.
And act utilitarianism whenever possible and no matter what, you'll need to act which brings the least pain or the most pleasure to the most people. But the thing is, it is not practical when faced with quick moral choices because you don't have time to weigh up all the pleasure and pain involved and all the people involved. Another thing is you can predict if it generates greatest good for greatest number of people. For example, doon sa scenario na may tatlong taong nanununod at hindi mo naligtas yung isang tao, but it turns out that person have the capacity to cure cancer and if he stays alive, he will save millions of people from dying and in saving him, it will result greatest good. It is really hard to know if actions will generate greatest good.
In rule utilitarianism, we need to have certain rules in place that everyone should follow. With rules, it will stop people from doing evil actions, which leads to greatest good for greatest number of people. But there are situations, katulad dun sa scenario na may naghahanap sa isang tao at kapag sinabi mo kung nasaan yung taong yun, papatayin siya. You can break rules if necessary. Pero with this, nagiging act utilitarianism na kasi you are judging based on actions.
Another point with this principle, hindi ka lang pwede mag-focus sa self-interest mo. Kinakailangan timbangin ng mabuti yung mga bagay. Halimbawa na lang yung sa short film. Karamihan sa mga estudyanteng na interview namin, mas piniling i-sacrifice yung buhay ng isa para mailigtas yung mas nakararaming tao.
Madaling sabihin na iligtas mo yung buhay ng mas nakararaming tao. Pero what if kung yung taong isa-sacrifice mo ay malapit sa'yo? Doon na papasok yung problem sa utilitarianism. Gaya nga ng sabi ng isa naming na-interview, nagkakaroon ng bias. Maaaring piliin ng isang tao yung buhay ng mahal niya, kahit pa kapalit nun yung buhay ng mas nakararaming tao.
But since we're talking about utilitarianism, we should choose which benefits for the greatest number of people. In utilitarianism, even the most evil action can be acceptable if they generate the most good. So if you were in the situation like lying, cheating, or even killing, you should do those actions.